Hey everybody, sorry for this little bit of delay. Just working through a few things in the old green room slash tech check room. My name's Trent, and we're so glad you're here on the Growth Club Summit. We're about to kick off, and I'm going to introduce Paul Murray, co-founder of AccountKit, and we're talking about the hidden costs of inefficiency and how small changes drive big gains in your firm. A few little bit of housekeeping items is that this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to play this back and watch it later, share it with your team, all of those fun and good things. There is CPD point claimable for this powered by the team at AccrediWise, and we are doing gift card giveaways if you're tagging us on LinkedIn. So if you want to tag this session and say you're hanging out with Paul Murray, talking about inefficiencies in your firm on LinkedIn, tag the Growth Club using hashtag, then you'll be all good to go. But we are 12, 13 minutes in to getting the session. So I'm going to save all the big intros and just say, Paul, how are you feeling? Good to have you in the session, mate.
I love technology. I tell you
I
what.
love it when it works as well. Um, Nothing like a bit of drama before a live session. If you're in the chat, why don't you tell us about the biggest tech fail you've ever had? Not that this is one of them, but just it'll be on theme for the last 10 minutes we've just had. Tell us the biggest tech fail you've ever had. Put it in the chat. That way we know that you can hear and see us A-OK. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, there was a bit of an issue. It wasn't a tech issue per se. It's a bit of everything, I guess. And we'll first it was Paul's keyboard, and then it wasn't the keyboard. We had to move to a laptop, and then it was Zoom, and it was all. The good news is, everyone, that you're perfect. You did everything right, and this was definitely on our end. So yeah, Paul, how you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling awesome. Very excited to have a bit of a chat about something that's close to my heart
Yes.
around this type of stuff. So, yeah, let me at it.
Love it. Well, you've got some fans in the chat already. I can see Anita. Good to see you here. Good to see you, Carla, and Jackie and Tracy and everyone that's in the chat. But Paul, mate, I'm going to hand over to you and let you jump straight in. Tell us why we're talking about the hidden cost of inefficiency and why is this the thing that you're passionate about?
Well, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but I'm going to dive into that right next. So, what I'm going to do is give you a bit of context about who I am and why I have any authority at all to speak into this space. So I am, as Trent said, a co-founder of AccountKit. I'm also a director of Murray Business Solutions here in Adelaide, running an accounting firm with my wife. She does the vast majority of it, does an amazing job, real rainmaker, and I just get wheeled in as required around tech and systems and general management of stuff. But a bit of background, I did study accounting back in the 90s. I became a video game artist because that's the logical thing to do after studying accounting. We're a small game development team. We grew from 15 to 120, from artist to producer. Crazy few years of my life. Learned a lot through everything from budgeting to hiring, firing, contract negotiations, and all sorts of stuff. It was mental, but I didn't sleep much. I needed to get back to real life, and I ended up joining my dad's accounting practice, and he'd grown one of the larger accounting practices in country area Australia called Murray Neckville. And I came along to the new iteration of that in Adelaide called Murray Business Solutions. And we started with a tiny team. We modernized things, modernized the website, but otherwise a really traditional practice running Reckon APS and traditional server-based systems. I went to Xerocon years ago, and as a concept, it got me really pumped about the future of accounting, generally speaking, because it was all new, this cloud accounting side of things. And we came out of it just going, this is going to supercharge this stuff we already love. Being an accountant is not necessarily all about the numbers and the tax returns. I feel like we get a hell of a lot more of a buzz out of the joy and the delight we bring to our customers in small business. That's what we really love to do. So we ended up moving our practice to the cloud. As you might imagine, you hit up all sorts of issues around systems and processes and all sorts. Through the process, it's been a many-year transition for us, taking baby steps along the way, but we're pretty stable these days. And through that journey, we also then built AccountKit with the idea to streamline and automate a bunch of the compliance work that we do, because we had a bunch of great spreadsheets and we had software all over the place that enabled us to fulfill our compliance function, but a lot of it was very manual work. But then more recently, over the years, we continued to build things out until we became more like a CRM and practice management platform where workflow and e-signing and deep DMS integrations fix a whole bunch of pain points within our own practice. And that kind of is the background for why I feel like I've got something really valid to say to you guys. So today, I'm going to talk about these hidden efficiencies. So this is things like the frustrations, things that drive us a little bit nuts within our practice. And this is coming out of our own practice and what's driven and motivated change within our practice. Also address this concept of why we find it so hard to change. And it probably seems relatively obvious when I say to you, why don't you make change? But I'm going to cover that from that and how we can potentially overcome it. And that's all part of this 1% rule. If you've heard me speak before, I talk about it a lot because it has a real tangible impact on how you run your practice. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo using a spreadsheet to do some cost analysis to show you how much of a difference this 1%ers can really make. And then because I really like practical stuff, I'll give you a few things you can try when you leave the meeting, because I want you to have something you can take away, walk into your office and say, July 1, this is the stuff I'm going to implement. So what's slowing us down? I'm pretty certain we've got a poll running, provided we don't end up with a tech issue there as well, is talking about everyday frustrations. And these are some of the things that we hit upon on a regular basis. It's lack of visibility. I can't see everything's happening in the practice. I can see some of the compliance work, but is it being done properly? The right steps being followed? What's happening with the onboarding of a new team member or offboarding a client? Like, can I see everything? Generally not. Dovetailing into that is lack of consistency. So the work we do is done differently by different people. So if we don't standardize some of these systems and we don't have the right stuff in place, then it leads to people just doing things the best way they know how just to get the job done. Then we've got manual journals for repetitive data entry. And that's no brainer. It's what we have always done. We get to the end of financial year and we're doing our the compliance work. We're doing the journals for equipment finance and amortization and you name it. We're doing all those manual data entry. And because we're using these spreadsheets that we've created over the years, and especially if we're sitting in the cloud and we can't use the old Excel TX template files, people are now taking spreadsheets and putting them on their desktop and they use them instead of using current versions of templates, so there can be errors wrapped into that. Now, I specifically chose interentry loans because I used to get into a cold sweat every time I started a compliance job and I'd come up against a whole bunch of interentry loans, knowing I'm just going to burn a pile of time chasing down what on earth's going on between these entities. Correspondence, this comes back to visibility as well. We often had situations, talking with my dad and talking with Paula, where we would do a lot of the client-facing work, but what we were talking about often didn't make its way back to the people that were actually doing the work. So for all effective purposes, the correspondence was lost and it resulted in mistakes and errors by our team. And if you've ever made the move from Windows Explorer and terminal server up into the cloud and you're trying to manipulate files there, it's a different beast and not necessarily a fun one at that. And to round it out, too many clicks across multiple cloud apps drives me insane. So these are all things that we hit in our practice, and we've tried to address a lot of them through the apps and through AccountKit and the integrations and where they play together. Yes, I can see Tracy, extra compliance from government. Yeah, we don't like that, even remotely. So the question is, why is change so hard? I've just highlighted a bunch of frustrations. Can't we just change stuff and fix it? But it's not as simple as that. As Tracy's mentioned, we've got this government stuff throwing new legislation at us, changing the goalposts, moving goalposts on a regular basis, so that we never feel like we quite have a settled environment where we can just get stuff done. Stuff's changing. Our clients seem to be more demanding than ever before. We've got our life to deal with. School drop-offs, school pickups, sports, and then there's no time left even for us. So our brains are so chock full of information and stuff that we don't have the mental capacity to change, and change takes quite a lot of brain power and capacity to want to change anything. But we also hit this thing where we feel like if we're going to make a change, it's got to be a big one for it to matter, for it to be significant. But of course, we don't have brain space, so we avoid it altogether and we just keep doing what we've always done. And this is really what I want to address today, is it doesn't need to be that way at all. this whole concept of the 1%ers, the small wins, big results, the aggregation of marginal gains. This is all stuff that was come to the fore. It was initially brought to the fore for the first time through when this guy, Dave Brailsford, in 2010 was put onto the task of having the UK cycling team take out the Tour de France. No Brits ever won it before. And so he's come on thinking, well, I think I can make the team win within 5 years if I just hit on all the points, not just the obvious things. So he did all the obvious things, you know, the diets, the weight of the tires, the seats they use in their bikes, you name it, all those things. They're the obvious ones. But then he hit up things like, we're going to change the massage gel, try different massage gels. We're going to try different pillows and ensure that they've got the best pillows for each rider that they can take on the road to ensure best sleeps, well rested, right down to how they washed their hands. Something as small as that. And they did lots of little things like that, and they did many of them. And so the outcome ended up being, so they actually took out the Tour de France in 3 years, not 5 years. They then won the Olympics in 2012. They won the Tour de France again in 2013. So it really did seem to lend real authority to this idea that this 1%ers really do matter. Well, that's great for riding bikes, but what does it mean for us when we run an accounting firm? Well, it's about focusing on those small continuous improvements, all the small changes that you could possibly make instead of just looking at the big things. It's about looking what's inside your app stack already and not necessarily looking for something new, but just utilizing it better. Because often we've got these app stacks and we use the tiniest proportion, and yet there's so much power within them. It's finding those repetitive tasks, things we do day in, day out. And again, they might look like small things, but if you do something 100 times a day across your practice, that adds up really, really quickly. And obviously AI is the flavor of the month. Utilize it to streamline some of the stuff that's not so much fun. Obviously keeping client data out of it or anonymizing it. I use it for things like creating policies. Not fun to write at all, but it does an amazing job of writing policies or analyzing data. And most importantly, it's actually generating a culture of change, encouraging experimentation with your team. So giving them authority to fail, giving them authority to spend time, reducing some of their targets so they've got time to implement. So that the whole office then starts to get this thing of, you know, experimentation and change is a new norm. But I'm going to show you some stuff, and like I promised, it's going to be a spreadsheet. So I've got my spreadsheet here. This is going to run through an analysis, and on the right hand side I've got AccountKit. That's going to be the example of how I'm going to pull these things together. But I want you to take special note. Over here where I've got tool or app identified, this can be any app, any process, any system. I'm going to use AccountKit as the example because it's really easy to show the tangible differences. Now the key with this is I'm going to assume that we can find lots of little gains to be made across different things we do across compliance and workflow. And in doing so, we're going to save some time. Now that time that we save either means that we bill at the same rate, so we don't discount our fee because we did it quicker or more efficiently. We do it at the same rate so that we have an increased margin on the job which is completed, which means we have more time to do other work. And the other work can either be more compliance work, which is awesome because it's hard to find good team members, new team members, but if they can achieve more with the time they have, then we're generating more profit. Or they can repurpose some of their time into what is perceived as the higher value work, the work that clients are more happy to pay for. And it could be as simple as starting with compliance consultancy, where they're really diving into the details of the financials and the opportunities that sit within them. It may not be any of these. It could actually just be, if I'm maintaining the same profit, but I have more time, maybe I'm taking more time back for me. Whichever you want to do. But any way you look at it, there's going to be a compounding gain that comes with this. So looking at AccountKit, lots of cool stuff in here, all about fixing small problems all over the place. But the starting thing to keep in the back of your mind is this. This is the family group. This gives me access to everything, reducing clicks, to access information about a client or anyone within the client group. So this is the overarching premise that minimizes the amount of effort and clicks it takes to do what we do in our day-to-day. Whether it's about quick links into different systems or accessing client information or accessing the document management system in SharePoint, or whether it be about correspondence or e-signing or business structure diagrams, it's all at my fingertips. I'm not jumping around all over the place to find the information. So keep this in the back of your mind because that sets the tone for everything. But let's begin with the inter-entity loan. And the reason I start with this is because it's actually my favorite tool, because it saves me personally minimum of 2 hours every month across 4 entities to do the work that I do. And even though I am really particular about the work that we do and the tidiness of our records, it still takes time to do so. So let's just have a quick look at what that looks like and why I love it so much. We've got 2 ledger files here, and you can see rather than exporting these to to Excel and matching transactions, manually doing entries, I can now run auto match, which would take me a whole bunch of time to do. And then from there, the balance of transactions typically are relatively similar, so I can select in bulk and then code in bulk to the other ledger file. So let's go to PAYG. We code the whole lot in one hit, and then we post those entries. Now, putting this into context as well, sure, I've reconciled this all the way throughout the year. I've kept everything in balance. It's great for when I'm doing management reporting because I know this stuff's in balance, and it also means I can address issues as they come up. So if something changes, then I can pinpoint it really quickly, talk with the client, resolve it very quickly. So when I do get to end of year, this stuff is already taken care of. So let's just say even for ourselves, we've got 4 inter-entity loans, and I save around about 2 hours, 30 minutes per schedule over the year, which is 360 minutes. So the theory is if I worked on my own work and I was billing myself, then I've got margin here that I could apply. But more exciting is when I put it across our practice, and I'm going to be fairly conservative with these numbers because I really want to show the difference this can make. So 40 schedules, inter-entity loans, and let's say we save an hour for an entire year for each of those schedules. Now, there'll be some that are more, some that are less, and it makes a little bit of a difference. But if we dive into, say, equipment finance, now we're going to do the next layer. In here, we've got the golf. We've got a standardization of the way we do this rather than sitting in some other application. It's posting those entries all the way throughout the year for me. So when I'm doing my tax planning, my year end, that stuff's already dealt with. If it's out of balance, I can quickly resolve it. I can then output that to PDF easily enough. The other great benefit with this is it also means we get a cash flow commitments report across an entire group. So I'm not jumping out and trying to collate this stuff in Excel. Within seconds, I can see exactly what commitments are going across an entire family group for the year ahead. So in our practice, we have 679 schedules currently active. Let's say we save 5 minutes per schedule. Okay, Div 7A. Easy to make mistakes, manual through the ATO. If you want to change it, you have to redo it all again. Easy to get your formulas wrong or get your rates wrong. So our aim here is to make sure that we standardize it and make it really easy to do. So nice and visual, great for talking with the client about their current commitments, upcoming dividends, interest amounts, and even easier to then fix data within here that we can then assign data back to our calculation schedule. So reducing the scope for errors very, very quickly, whilst also enabling me to play with dividends, pay out loans, and then post those entries straight into Xero. So even if I was reviewing a job and said, you know what, that dividend per our tax planning should have been an extra 20 grand, I can come back here, make a small tweak and repost back in. And straight away, you've got a nice, robust system that's sorted out. So again, in MBS, we've got 258 of these running. Say we save 20 minutes on average. Excellent. All right, correspondence, massive pain point across multiple fronts, not just emails, also meeting notes, standardizing how we do stuff. So Our starting point was always around capturing a phone message, which I click through and do a phone call summary. And then from here, it's really easy then to use templates to populate text and then notify the appropriate team members. That's super simple, really awesome. I can link it back into workflow tasks if I need to. But even better is when you then tie that back to your email, because we're never going to come out of our email anytime soon. We live in our email, we work in our email, so we need to bring the context of the email back to where you actually work. So you can see in here, with the Bull family, I've got the details. I can see the workflow items, so I can assign work to a particular job. I've got access to the DMS, so I can actually drag and drop files into the DMS from here and access information about the client without even leaving the system. So we're bringing the context to where you work, reducing the clicks between the systems, which we do all day long. All right, correspondence. In the last year, 6,159. And let's say we save 2 minutes. I would argue this is almost the unsung hero, because it's an area that we are not notoriously not good at, because we get so busy, we don't take good file notes, we don't share it with our team. And yet here I'm saying we might save 2 minutes, but if you think about this, saving correspondence, having it available at the family group level for any team member that can access it and see exactly what's going on without clicking around trying to find saved correspondence. I think that's pretty damn awesome. All right, getting to the pointy end now. Client map. If you don't do client maps for your clients, the question from my point of view is why not? Usually because it's time consuming. You've got to dig up information from different sources. It's my logging out. No, awesome. All right, so we do them in Excel, we do them in lots of different places, but you've got to make sure that data is correct. Whereas if the data, if we know the data is correct, and all we have to do is drop these onto the canvas and join them together, or more ideally, we can just run an auto build on these. It gives us a good baseline to start with. And this is so awesome for including in our financials, second page of our financials, continually educating our clients about their structure, but also for providing to lawyers that are doing estate planning, or for the team to review a group for the first time and see the ownership structure and how stuff flows between the entities. This is utterly invaluable and brings efficiencies across the board. All right, we've updated 143 of those in the last year. Saves at least 10 minutes doing that. And the last one, which is the biggie, is around workflow. How do you keep track of everything happening in our practice? Because so much goes on beyond the compliance, whether it's onboarding a team member, offboarding a client, updating your website, getting ready for end of year event. How do you keep abreast of everything that's happening without going around talking to everyone? And this all comes down to things like templates, making sure that you are setting up beautiful naming conventions, defining processes and the instructions and checklists, and then kicking off the repeats so that you have a reliable, repeatable system that targets the right employees at the right time consistently throughout the year. So you've now got this nice, robust, repetitious system going on. I can then slice and dice it by the types of views that I want to see, depending on what's going on. My admin team, they'll create a view that's all about what's ready to send out to clients, for example, whereas all I care about is what work do I need to review, or what are my team working on, or what else is on my list. And I've got lots of capacity to see exactly what's going on. But it's also a matter of coming in and saying, okay, I'm doing some work on this particular job here. That lets me browse into the right folder, and I can grab something like my downloads and just drag that in. And so I can manipulate stuff directly from here. I don't have to jump in and out. Again, if you're working in the cloud, typically things like PDFs, you have to download, you edit them, you re-upload them again. Again, prone to error and a waste of time. Whereas I can do all that stuff without even leaving my workflow item at all. After which you can then kick off your e-signing by whichever platform you like, and that will auto file for you and notify you, so you're not chasing down financials or trustee resolutions that you have sent to clients and you're just trying to get them back before these due dates. So that streamlines and automates that whole process for you. All right, so workflow, what does that look like? 2,400 of those created in the last year, and let's say it saves 10 minutes. which I think is crazy achievable. So you kind of look at this and you might think I'm being overly optimistic maybe, because as it stands, in theory, we could potentially make an extra $240,000 on that team across 6 tools. Let's assume I'm being overly optimistic. Let's say, we're going to say 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Even making this as skinny as possible, you can see we're still coming out well in advance through these small changes. And this is why I wanted you to come away from this conversation feeling encouraged that small change makes a big difference. Lots of small changes result in big outcomes. Well, I think that's pretty cool. If you want to copy that spreadsheet, I'm happy to provide that to you. All right, so let's just dive back into here, because I want to give you then some actions. What does this mean to execute? Because we want to embed this, like I said earlier, we want to embed this into the culture of your organization. A great starting point is to elect a champion or a project lead or something. And for the example of software, we will assign a user or two as a champion of a piece of software. In AccountKit, we have 2. We have one for the admin team, one for the tax team, because they use AccountKit differently to each other. And their role is to be on top of everything. What changes? Going back to that point of we pay for software, but we don't utilize it properly. This is ensuring we don't incur further costs, but we're utilizing things better. They go to the What's New webinars, they review the latest change logs, and their role is to then come to your team meeting once a month or every 2 months with a few ideas. They might come back and say, there's been no changes worthwhile pursuing. Great. But if each of your teams are doing this, I bet there'll be a few little things they can do. And it could be as simple as saying, we're going to use AccountKit for just doing phone messages and phone call summaries, and that's it. Time to implement, 30 seconds. Training time, 1 minute. Like, a really low barrier to entry to get in there. Similarly, so you can be doing things around, I'm going to start doing client maps within here rather than doing spreadsheets, or automating recruitment finance. Over the next year, we'll just slowly add them to the system. Any way you look at it, you pitch it to the team, show what it looks like. Then as a team, they agree on what that change actually looks like. So when they start to buy into the change, they put the change forward, the team agree to it, the buy-in increases, people get excited about this change as opposed to having a change forced down onto them. And then you roll it out. As you roll it out, you're documenting the process, you're doing Loom videos to help people understand, you're dealing with the change that might come from that. And then you review the outcome at the next meeting. You go through it and you go, what worked well, what didn't work well? Are we going to continue? Should we tweak it a little bit further? And you make sure that you celebrate the wins. So when it is awesome, you go, this is bloody amazing. Celebrate, pat each other on the back, keep it moving, but also make sure you acknowledge the failures and just move on, because some things aren't going to work, and that's totally fine. That shouldn't be the thing that stops you from implementing change. Rinse and repeat, just keep it going on. And you can imagine just even having a couple of team members doing this every month with small changes incrementally happening all year long. This is what you'll start to see, because you can see through the spreadsheet that I was showing you that the impact as you incrementally add them on and on is quite exponential. So my question to you is, hearing all that, do you feel encouraged? What's the biggest takeaway that you've taken from that today? If you want to know more about what we do, then there are plenty of options here for you to dive in and have a look and reach out to us. Do you have any other polls, Trent? Did you get those polls working?
I don't know what's going on with the tech today, mate, but the polls are not working. And it's been frustrating, both Toby and I, whilst we were trying to solve out the other issue earlier. We're like, what is going on? So yeah, I apologize. If anybody wants to poll, you could do it in the chat. Otherwise, if you're interested, and Paul, I feel like we're actually kind of right on time. It's a good thing we started 10 minutes late, or else we would have been 10 minutes early.
Absolutely. Now, I'd like to get a short, sharp, and shiny. I see we've got a few comments in there. Tracy put the Atomic Habits. Yep, that is absolutely the best book. Totally.
I agree.
Anyway, it's great with complicated formulas. Are you currently looking at a bank feed from Xero? We already do Xero stuff. We're building up the Intuit QuickBooks integration as we speak. So then we'll have Xero and QuickBooks stuff for all your interactive lines, equipment finance, Div 7A, all there.
All the good stuff. If anyone's got a question for Paul, you can throw that into the chat. If you want to find out more information on anything he's spoken about, there's a few things here on the screen, as you've heard as well. We did record the session, so there'll be other things that we pull out of this and give to you later. If anybody wants a fun story on the tech issues, it started with a keyboard that was broken because we were looking at this slide and we could see that Pole is spelt with one L. And we're like, why can't we fix it? And then Paul realized the keyboard wasn't working and doing what it was supposed to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't kick someone out, because if you kick them out, you can't let them
And
back
then
in.
don't remove them from Zoom, because if you try to add them, Zoom will say, you've already removed this person. You can't welcome them back in. So they're all the fun things I've learnt very quickly today when you're trying to problem solve. Anyway, we prevailed. Paul, that was great. Thank you so much. If everybody can just jump in the chat and just thank Paul for I love Tech Miriam. You can't say that. You just have a moment of like, if I click remove, is that going to impact the future state of this? I didn't know that was going to happen. Anyway, please thank Paul for the session. Jump into the chat, standing crowd, round of applause, all those good things. Let me, Paul, you can keep your screen share, that's fine. Let me run you through what's coming up next, everyone. We've got 1 o'clock sessions coming up. One of them is with Amanda Gascoigne, the balanced firm, building a profitable solo or micro practice without burning out. I did the pre-game on that session with Amanda last week, and she's always wonderful. Like, you can't not enjoy hanging out with Amanda. The other one that you may want to be across is whether your firm is AML ready, anti-money laundering ready. Start with ID checks, data collection, compliance systems. That is with Stacey Shaw from PKF and Corey Kasick from Anacha. I actually forget what it is because I'm not the AML expert, but there are, I think it was new tranche 2 protocols that had come in place that everyone needed to be across with their AML KYC checks. Well, you're an accountant, you might know. And that is what Corey and Stacey are about to jump in and talk about at 1 o'clock. So we're going to finish our session here. We're going to give you all a 15-minute break to grab some food and do all the things that you might want to do. And then we're going to start again at 1 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Paul, thank you so much for your session. That was fantastic. And thank you all for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Trent. Appreciate the opportunity. Always happy to chat, reach out, and always happy to have a chat on LinkedIn or the like.
Yes, I'm glad we got here in the end. I'm glad the session worked as it needed, mostly as it needed to. So thank you. All right, team, I'm going to end the webinar. I'll see you all very soon.